AskReddit by Kakor upload. What's something that's actually better than 20 years before? Hearing aids. Holy crap, have they come a long way in the last 2 decades. Great to hear. I would rather have surgery today than 20 years ago. My mom just had sinus surgery that she said she's been putting off for over 30 years. Back then it would have been awful major surgery, but her procedure last week took 15 minutes, was minimally invasive, and has a recovery of just a few short days. Download speeds. I remember thinking 20 minutes to wait for an MP3 to download on Napster was blazing fast. Cancer treatment and medical treatments in general. HIV too. It was a death sentence 40 years ago. 20 years ago you'd make it, but with a shortened lifespan taking a cocktail of drugs that had really awful side effects. Now, your lifespan is about the same, the drugs are more streamlined, the side effects aren't so bad, and your risk of spreading it to others is basically zero. You can basically live a normal life, in the West, at least. In poorer countries, still awful. If you compare the first Toy Story to the latest, you can see how far computer animation has come. Way to make us feel old. TVs are way cheaper. And they are way easier to carry. The availability of autopay for bills and whatnot. IDK, maybe I'm crazy, but I still get super uncomfortable with money coming out of my bank account automatically, so I still do payment manually. Dentistry. They still haven't perfected the gum cutting bite wing for x-rays. Options for dietary restrictions: vegetarian, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, etc. As someone who's been lactose intolerant most of my life with a sensitive stomach on top of it, I love that I'm now spoiled for choice when it comes to food options. My friend had to go on a gluten-free diet for health reasons back in 2005 or so, and the limitations were ridiculous. His diet was like 3 things. Now, there's a wide variety. Online delivery. You can buy almost anything and it'll be at your door in 36 hours, and the price is comparable to picking it up from Target. That was not a thing 20 years ago. And it works even better in smaller developed countries. 90% of the South Korean population lives in an area covered by our order before midnight, received by 7 AM service for almost anything including produce and frozen food. GPS and directions, or simple knowledge that Google can confirm rather hearing well mama said etc, which isn't true. Printing directions from MapQuest and praying you didn't make a wrong turn and get lost was wild. Phones. I'm not talking about people being addicted to social media 24/7. I'm talking about actual phones. I pretty much live on voice to text. I remember having to sit there and pop each button several times to get one letter. Then having to wait until it moved to the next one. Or before that those car phones. Or before that the wall mounted phones with the cord that you couldn't get any privacy and only one person could use at a time, but nobody could use if somebody was on the internet. Also, transportation in suburban areas. Out there are no public buses. No trams. No taxis. Nothing. Those are all city things. They don't exist in the types of places I lived, which means if you didn't have a personal car you aren't going anywhere. Despite all of my personal beef with Uber and Lyft, it's really opened up transportation in these types of area, and I've heard that from a lot of other people as well. Uber and Lyft have been a godsend for people like me who can't drive due to disabilities, but still need to get around every now and then. Computers, medical science, life expectancy, vehicle fuel efficiency. The life expectancy of many cars has gotten much better too. Home studio recording for musicians. The home recording opportunities and technology available for the money is amazing today. It is a good time to be into that kind of thing. This is the one that impacts me the most, I feel like. Just a working class dude who can sing and play some instruments. I have a $3 cache set up including the computer, guitars, interface, keyboards, plugins, mic equipment, and what I have the ability to make if I put some time and effort into it has sound quality better than some pro records from the 70s or 80s where they were recording on $1 million+ setups in studios. The limitation isn't the tech or cost, it's skill, and this is a game changer. Same with home video. Brussels sprouts. They've improved them in cultivation by greatly eliminating the bitterness. Really? I always wondered why so many people hated them when I was a kid and now seem to love, or at least not mind, them. Internet speed. The air fryer. Teach me, what's the difference between a typical convection oven and an air fryer? Wi-Fi. Access to the world. It is almost too easy to travel now, at least in modernized countries. Just download an SM and you can figure out and do everything from your phone. Almost zero need to speak to people. Graphics in video games. As a 47-year-old man that has been gaming since Atari in the early 80s, this is a big one for me. I'm so jealous of the younger generations that what they get to experience for their first time would be mind-blowing to 8-year-old me. 20-year-old bourbon. Do you mean the quality of bourbon that has been aged for 20 years has gotten better, or that bourbon that's been sitting there for 20 years is better? I assume you are joking if the latter, but in case you are not, it stops aging once bottled. Hydrocephalus shunts. Pacemakers. Heart surgery. Dentistry. Prosthetic limbs. Synthetic fabric. Artificial joints. Mental wellness. Physiotherapy. Pain management and recovery. Message therapy. Probably the ozone layer. My wife. I also think your wife has gotten better. Decent information is so much easier to come by. 20 years ago Wikipedia was barely a thing and a laughingstock. I still had to spend a lot of time in libraries. I'd argue against this. Back in 2004-2006 Wikipedia was already pretty established and its UI hasn't changed much since then. I spent hours and hours every night on Wikipedia just article surfing back then.